I had to come do this video because every time we talk about slavery or it's brought up, I always see people try to make it seem like, yeah, well, it was abolished in 1865. Like I always hear that, and like you start to see that it probably was, but it didn't reach a lot of the states in general. It didn't reach a lot of different places till later, to where some people didn't even come out of slavery until basically the mid 1900s. Like you still had people that were slaves in the U.S. And what's up with it, Woken One? And it's just trippy to me that we try to make it seem like it's this thing that happened a long time ago, and then you start to see it's really not. Because I heard somebody even say, "Well, there are no more slaves, people that were slaves living today," and it's like it actually is. I think it's a couple, but we're gonna get into the video, and I'm gonna show you. This is what I ran across from this. So let's just go on and get started.
If you did leave, they either come get you or have somebody kill you, whatever. Jerry Dawson, he lived around the same place we lived on. He left, they went and got him, brought him back, carried him right down there from his house, killed him, hung him up in a tree, castorized him and hung him up right from his house where his children, everybody could see him. I'm pretty sure it's 55, 56 when this happened.
Like you hear, that was 1955, 1956 when this happened.
Most of us think that the end of the Civil War in 1865 closed the chapter on slavery in the American South, but that's far from the truth. Over the next 100 years, generations of black Southerners were forced to labor against their will. This new form of slavery happened in the shadows of the first half of the 20th century. And even though civil rights movement began advancing racial equality in the South in the 1950s, these practices continued secretly, making it a difficult history to prove. Today, there's one woman who's dedicated her life to finding this lost history of black identity. She's been called the slavery detective of the South.
We're currently in Louisiana about to meet Antoinette Harrell, who specializes in finding cases of essentially modern day slavery. We're really deep in the South right now. It's super swampy and super rural. I was actually born in Boston and moved to Atlanta, Georgia, like early on in my childhood, but I've never been out this far deep into Louisiana. I'm very interested in connecting with Antoinette and learning more about her work. Hello, Antoinette. Nice to meet you.
And she still.
Antoinette was born and raised in Louisiana, and even though she lost her leg to cancer a few years ago, that hasn't slowed her down from what she sees as a mission of justice, tracking down and verifying cases of slavery and abusive labor practices that happened after the Civil War. Sometimes she gets leads from newspaper clippings, old FBI reports, or recorded testimonies, and sometimes she just gets a phone call.
I've gotten scared because I see how they beat some of the boys. They beat people to death in there.
Mike, I appreciate you not taking this story to the grave with you. I know it hurt. I know it's very painful. And the state of Florida can't pay you all enough. But I'll be in touch with you shortly.
A few of Antoinette's investigations have been used in court cases for reparations, though sometimes.
Now, you hear, because they always try to say that we ain't never been fighting for reparations, and it's like, hold on, like, what are you talking about? Like,
the end goal is simply to give people knowledge of their family roots, which for a lot of black Southerners is something that slavery erased.
Let me first tell you how I got started with this. Researching my own family history. My family was held as slaves. Well, in 1863, my family was emancipated. And my family did become sharecroppers. Robert Harrell became a sharecropper under the system of sharecropping. The planter and the newly freed former slaves came into an agreement. I will furnish you with the seeds, with the land, a place to stay. In return, you will give me a portion of the crops. Well, not everyone did the right thing.
Although sharecropping was technically legal, the practice was widely abused by white landowners who used debts to keep African Americans tied to the land.
Wow, that like this hella makes sense because that's the way that they basically made it seem like it wasn't slave labor. You know, they invite you and you like your room and board is free. It's crazy because when I lived in Napa, California, like it was a few places that they had there that people would tell you that like okay, you can work for me and you can come. I got like this one guy, he had like a huge house and then he had like a side apartment on the side, and it's like the people that usually work on my farm, they live in these apartments, and like that's right there. Like if you come and you work for me, your room and board and everything will be free, and I'll pay you to work for me. I ain't saying that he wasn't paying slave wages though. No, not back then. Like he was paying and this was like 20 years ago. He was paying $20 an hour. Then it was like 500 a week or something like that. But it's trippy.
That they once worked as slaves. Sharecroppers didn't pay rent, but they didn't own any property. And today, historians agree sharecropping was just slavery by a different name.
Man,
So many former enslaved Africans had nothing. They had no choice. At the end of the year, you owe me. No matter how hard you work, you were told, sorry.
the workforce
And
still
those
like that,
cases
right
relate
today.
directly to your cases today.
Right. After slavery, these are like 1921, 1930, 1940s, the 50s, and some of them to the 60s.
All the way to the 60s. You wouldn't even the way they talk about
Antoinette's
it.
very first
You wouldn't
case
even
was
know
Mabel
that.
Louise Miller, a woman who was held as a
Like it
slave with
came
her
and
entire
went.
family in Mississippi until 1961. Though May passed away in 2014, Antoinette took us to see one of her brothers, Arthur Miller.
May and Arthur being two of the older sisters and brothers, they remember a lot. It took a long time before Arthur really opened up and talked.
We lived on, I don't know what would you call it, but something like a plantation to me. It belonged to several different white people. They all were family, I guess. And
Dang.
you couldn't leave. And if you did leave, they either come get you or have somebody kill you, whatever. That's what happened. They did my mama bad.
What they do to your mother?
They just had my mother, the white men, they just do what they want to do with them. And I just wasn't big enough to do that. If I would have been, I don't know, probably would have been.
And this was in the 1950s or 40s.
That was on through the 40s, in the 50s, all through the
Hey,
50s,
so
and part of the 60s.
So when you hear people make it seem like slavery was over like in the 1800s, it's like no it wasn't. Like people were still holding slaves, and they didn't even tell them that they were actually free. Like they almost like tricked them into staying there and then wouldn't let them leave. Like on the plantation, like they wouldn't let them leave the farm.
So what would the repercussions be if you tried to leave or if you tried to refuse what they wanted?
Back in them days, it was kind of like you had to do what the white man said or get killed. My dad's uncle, he made him dig a grave and kill him. They killed him, buried him in his own grave. Jerry Dawson, they killed him. He lived around the same place we lived on. He left, and said he wasn't coming back. They wouldn't got him, brought him back, carried him right down there from his house, killed him, hung him up in a tree.
They hung him.
They killed him first, castorized him, and hung him up right from his house in the tree, and everybody could see
Bro,
him.
that is crazy.
Were you aware that this is 1940s, 1950s, that this is insane. Arthur, this breaks my heart to hear this story.
Look, about just hearing the story, about to have him in tears, and it's like, wait, dang, you still living here today to even be able to tell the story. You right here, right now, in front of me, telling me this. And people say
Growing up,
they
were
don't
you
exist
fully
no more.
aware? This is in the 40s and 50s. You know, the civil rights movement is just about to begin. Were you aware of what was going on in the rest of the country at that time for Black people pursuing freedom?
No,
You weren't aware at all that there was any pursuits for freedom in the 40s and 50s for us.
no, not really. Not really go.
They was doing
I
slave
think maybe
trade
like in
in the
65,
1900s.
66,
Yeah, they still
doing that
was.
marching. You know, that's when I really found out. People are scared to talk about it. If people right now, y'all go to talk to, it won't talk to y'all about this shit. They're scared to do it. They got
Man,
that fear in them,
hey, that's wild to even think about that right there. Like it's still going on, but people don't want to like the ones that are slaves. They don't want to talk about it because they know the repercussions. They know what happened in the like in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 40s. What happened, like you said, his uncle being slaughtered, his and other family members. It's like, what the hell, bro? That shit is crazy.
How could something like this happen?
We already know this.
A lot of these places that was in buried, isolated rural areas, it was easy. I mean, you had the opportunity to ride through some of these areas and you saw for miles and miles, there's absolutely nothing.
You think, like, how could somebody not just escape these type of conditions? And once you actually are out here, you see there is nothing but cotton fields and crops and long strips of road where can you fathomably go? It's insane to see how you can be trapped on this land on so many different levels, whether it be economically, physically, and even mentally.
We're calling on the world in terms of righteousness, reparations.
Antoinette's work for Arthur's family got the attention of a lawyer in 2001, and they became part of a class action lawsuit for reparations. But ultimately, the Supreme Court refused to hear the case, and the pursuit for reparations has since been dropped.
Wow. After they still doing the slave
How you doing,
thing.
ma'am? My name is Antoinette Harrell, and I'm a historian. Hey, how y'all doing? I got a question. Can I ask you something right quick? The lady in the next block told me there used to be a store where people used to sharecrop or work on somebody's land. Do anybody know that story?
Is that how you do a lot of your work, just going out and talking to the community?
Hey, how
Damn,
you
what's up
doing?
with it, Africa?
A club coming in.
Yeah.
Well, I can't.
Did you ever pick cotton? Oh, yeah. It take me a whole day to get to it.
Ain't finna go.
One of Antoinette's new cases took us to the Ball Ground Plantation to meet a man named Donald Jeffrey. Donald comes from 5 generations of sharecroppers who worked this same land under the Simrel family. Donald still lives here, along with the last descendant of the Simrel family, a man named Karsten. Today, Donald works full-time on another farm, but still lives rent-free on this plantation and does odd jobs for Karsten. So their living situation is unconventional, to say the least.
This is deep, and it also explains some things from the present.
I grew up in Monticello, Georgia, which is a small town about 90 miles south of Atlanta. My paternal grandmother was the daughter of John S. Williams. He died long before I was born. But I heard from my uncles, from my father, from people who knew him that he was a wonderful man. He was well respected in the community.
In 1921, almost 18 years after the Peonage trials, federal investigators visited the Williams farm to follow up on reports that he was holding peons.
There's a group of black men out in the field. The men are obviously terrified, unwilling to say almost anything. They're emaciated. They've clearly been terribly abused. John Williams suddenly appears.
He pleads that he didn't know this was against the law, that he'll do better. His intentions were good, very apologetic to these federal officials, and they leave. And he doesn't know what they're going to do. He knows they found evidence that he was holding these people in slavery. He talks to his foreman, Clyde Manning, and says, as the court transcript said, we've got to do away with these boys.
The family story was that he had worked prisoners on his farm, that they were hardened criminals and they had been put in the penitentiary for a long time. And one night, a lot of the prisoners tried to escape. And he, along with other farmers who were working these men, tracked them down and in the process of recapturing them, killed some of them. Then sometime later, the story came to light for me. It was, of course, totally different from the story that I had heard.
Systematically hunted and murdered 11 black workers. Some were bludgeoned, others were weighted down with chains and forced into a nearby river. Another was made to dig his own grave.
And it came to light only because a little boy was
crazy,
fishing
bro.
down by the creek where they'd thrown some of the bodies, and one of the bodies came up.
In the spring of 1921, Williams and Manning each faced an all-white jury in a Georgia state court. Both were found guilty and given life sentences. Within a decade, both had died in prison. Williams was the first Southern white man since 1877 to be indicted for the first-degree murder of an African American. It would not happen again until 1966.
Damn.
But we uncovered a present-day plantation. We're concealing the identities of those living on this plantation to protect them from any repercussions.
If you had housing in the city with your movie,
Man,
so you would pay like $70.
it's crazy because these people right here, like, they still enslaved, right? Like, today, bro. Like, it's still going on.
Well, as long as it's around where I stay, yeah, I can do that.
You know, we couldn't get them to say anything about the owners on camera, but they explained to us off camera exactly what was going on, and they said to us if we were able to get them off of the plantation, that they would give us the full story on camera.
They would bring my mother to the house, and when they bring my mother to the house, one of us would have to go with my mother, so the master said. And so this was the particular time that I had to go with my mom. So, with my mom. And when it came to me, I was sitting there crying because, when you don't know what's going on, I was sitting up there crying. And so the lady said, they coming to me. So the master's wife said to him, and the other brothers or whoever they were. And she said, and they were sort of looking, and she said, oh no, honey, no. And she says, she's not even a heifer yet. I didn't learn what that word was until over in the 70s. And she said, she's not even a heifer yet. She's just a yearling. You can't. But they gave my mom, and they did me just like they did my mama. And there I was in the pile of blood, a little bit of girl didn't know what to do. And his wife had to clean me up. But that never stopped.
That is crazy, bro. And they be trying to say that, man, that shit is crazy. Like, it's still people that live today that witness certain things that happened back then. That was going on, that's still going on where they're from.
Today? I can talk some more about it. Yeah. I can remember when my daddy went to the cotton field to chop cotton. And there's a big old oak tree sitting over on the cotton field.
and the boss come out there riding a horse, and he slapped Daddy across the head 2 or 3 times with one of them hand hold guns, and run him out from under the tree. Me and Mama was sitting on the opposite of the tree, and he told us, if you want to stay on my farm, you better get up and get to go to work, or don't you get the hell off of it. I never will forget that. And Daddy worked all that day. We worked all that day, but we went in that night. Uh, he cut out the lights on every house that had lights on, and told the people they didn't want to work. They'd sleep in the dark. They won't have no fire. Oh, it was hell back there then. White folks didn't care nothing about no black folks back there in my young days. They was all just like mules, horses, and dogs to the white back in them days.
Still
I
is.
know they carried my daddy out in the woods and tied uh, rope around his neck and pulled him up by the tree limb, and Daddy stayed there until he passed out. They stood there until Daddy passed out. When Daddy passed it out, uh, they let him down. Let him down, and that, I guess it's about 10 or 15 minutes before my daddy come back to himself. And when he did that, he told Daddy to get the hell off of his farm and don't come back there. Sorry working, sorry a bitch. So Daddy left that walking that evening about sundown. We didn't. That was on a Monday. We didn't see my daddy, until that next Monday. And that next Monday, uh,
Dang. That shit so hurtful right there, bro. Like, and he still. Well, I don't know if this dude right here is still alive today.
the next Monday, Daddy moved with a white man to call Mr. John Campbell. And Mr. John Campbell was good to us. He helped Daddy move. Hope Daddy get his stuff together and bought us a bunch of groceries. That's when that bad luck started leaving us. We worked with Mr. John Campbell about 7 years.
Yeah, it hurt like
When
mama.
he died, his wife sold a farm, and Daddy moved back to Lone Oak Town, and he started working for a man they called Mr. John Campbell. And Mr. John Campbell worked there about 6 or 7 months. He bought him a new car, and he sold Daddy his old A model car. He sold it to Daddy, and that's when Daddy packed his little clothes with a little head and left my mama. He went back home to his daddy. His daddy lived in Cairo, Illinois. That was his home, my daddy's home. My mama's home was in Arkansas. And he was jumping on mama, beating mama up. A white fellow come along there one day. Mama was crying and carrying out. He asked her what's wrong. So she told him. He said, well, get what you want to carry with you. And damn the rest, he said, and I'll send you home. And he picked my mama up in the truck and carried us to the bus. Thank up and wait.
I think that's the part that get me is like when people tell you to get over this thing that happened. Like it wasn't still happening. Like part of it ain't still going on right now. Like that shit is like hella ridiculous. It's like I don't get people, man. I don't get people today. People is fucking weird as shit. Like on so many levels, weird as shit. You know, and it's like they know this shit, bro. They just don't care though. Like they really don't care. It's like they kind of want to. Man, this shit's sad as hell.
Bush left y'all so far behind, I can't even. One thing that I'm just so tired of trying to get people to understand is slavery in the United States and when it ended. Yes, the teacher probably told you something about the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, or they might have brought up, for us, they might have brought up the end of the Civil War in 1865, or they might have even brought up Juneteenth, which a lot of people did not. Y'all didn't even know what Juneteenth was, so they probably didn't even bring up Galveston and Union soldiers having to go enforce shit and all that. They probably didn't even bring that up, and especially not under this current administration. But I'm just gonna say this: if you believe that slavery ended when the law said it ended, then you're failing to think critically about it at all. And if you don't want to think about it, say that. But don't just be definitively, oh, slavery ended this, or it didn't affect you. It didn't affect, I don't know why you guys want reparations. I don't know what it is. Slavery ended all the way. Bullshit. That's all bullshit. I want you to just think critically for just a moment. See if you can follow this. See if you can follow this, right? If the law says, oh, you cannot enslave another human being, right? Except for if they're imprisoned. Okay, cool. Now we're just going to, anybody imprisoned or anybody who gets into that system, whatever, we're going to enslave them. Right? But that's okay, right? Let's just leave that over there for a second. So if the law is that you can't be jobless, because that's also a law. Vacancy laws existed. I don't know why you guys are confused about that. But if that's the law and it says you can't be jobless, or you'll go to prison, or you'll be forced into labor, that's slavery.
Heard that one.
1 + 1 = 2. That's slavery. If you are forced to work for the same enslavers that once enslaved you, but now they're your employer, do you think their morals and values have changed? Do you think they consider you human? Do you think they see the humanity in you enough to actually pay you? Do you think the government was on their back hey, you pay these people for their labor? No. And if you question them, they either killed you, sent you to prison, or fired you, which was against the law, to be jobless. That's slavery. That's slavery. Some of them were not paying their employees, these formerly enslaved people, real money. Some of them were paying them fake money to be used in that area and maybe a little bit of the surrounding areas to exchange for goods and services. But you could not take that and go somewhere else and actually use it as real currency, because it wasn't. That's slavery. Do you understand where I'm going? Do you see where I'm going? Slavery did not end when they told you it ended. It lasted well into the 1900s. It still exists today. I hope this helps. Bush left y'all so.
And that real slavery didn't even end until the 60s, 70s, because a lot of people didn't even know that a lot of slaves didn't even know they were free.
You guys should probably.
They were still working on the plantation, living on the plantation.
Or you should be ashamed of yourselves for not paying attention in class. Some of you guys really need to go back to school. Pick up a textbook or even use Google, because Google is free. It is at your fingertips. Because, I'm sorry, when was the Emancipation Proclamation signed? Wasn't that 1863? I believe it was. I believe it was 1863. And
1865.
Lincoln, he also had no control over the Confederate States. Isn't that correct? And, to my recollection, the Emancipation Proclamation was just an act to seize enemy resources from the Confederate States that he had no control over. Therefore, him trying to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation onto the Confederate States, it didn't work, because he was trying to enforce something on people he did not govern or that he had no control over. Hence, the Civil War. When did the Civil War take place? It was from 1861 to May of 1865. Now, if my math is mathing, 1861 is when the Civil War started. 1863 would be the preceding year, 2 years later. That's when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, in which you're claiming freed the slaves then. But literally, Black soldiers were fighting in the Civil War, many of them, most of them, against their will because of slavery, until 2 years later, after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. They were still in slavery when the Civil War ended in 1865. So, no, Lincoln did not free the slaves. And no, the Emancipation Proclamation did not free the slaves. Do you know who freed the slaves? The slaves freed the slaves. The soldiers who lost their lives on that hill, who died, they freed the slaves. I'm not going to take anything away from Lincoln and his attempt and his good nature to free people that should have never been enslaved. But he did not free the slaves. Y'all need to stop trying to rewrite history and taking credit or giving credit to someone who did not even go into battle.
They gonna always do that.
We have real life veterans and people who died for our freedom. My ancestors, the people who fought and died in the Civil War, they freed the slaves. Knock it off. You should be ashamed of yourself. Y'all, all of y'all in this comment section.
Don't get mad. That's the way it is. It's crazy, bro. You know, I think I want to leave it right there because those first few videos was just damning and it kind of shows you a lot of, you know, how people are today. Like, you know, and people actions is just way out. And I feel like today, in today's world, people don't like to take responsibility for their wrongs. You know, they can blame it on the devil and they can actually get away with it. They can blame it on evil spirits and they can actually get away with doing dumb shit. Cause you know, you got a scapegoat. You always got that scapegoat to make it seem like it's an outer source helping you commit the shit that you're doing. Like, you know, I say this over and over again. People act like they don't know the difference between right and wrong. Like, you don't know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. Like, how is that even a thing? Like, how is that a thing? And you know, when you got that scapegoat, you know, it's easy to do shit. So Lincoln said, I mean, he could keep slavery intact. He would. He didn't like BFs either. Dang, black folks either. Yeah, that's crazy. People today is heavily under MK Ultra, but that ties into spirits. Hey, and I think like me and Ozo was talking about this today, and we were just talking about how people are so easily influenced. Like, that's what I be saying about clone. Like, whenever I think of the cloning, I don't think of them like they don't have to go and clone your whole body. Like, the easiest way to get you is to clone your mind, to get you to have a belief system that the majority has. So once you start to get in with the majority, that's what you become a part of. You begin to think like the majority of what they want everybody to think. So it's like it's easier to clone your mind and your thoughts with a system than it is to take a person and actually clone a full person. Why do I have to do that when I can indoctrinate you? I can give you, I can raise you on this system of belief, and then you'll be just like the ones that was raised on that system or raised in that system. You'll be just like them. And you'll be running around like a chicken with his head cut off, just following, you know, what you were told. And I think that's the way that it's easier to do now. Like, it's so easy for them to do that, to grab somebody like a president, and then they fill them with all these different things in order to make them that thing, the president. You feel me? They give them all this information in order to clone them to be the next president, which is, I mean, come on now. Like, bro, this shit is crazy. This shit is crazy, but it's really not. Like, and if you understand what I'm saying, start looking at people, start observing people, just all people, and just pay attention to them, the way they talk, the way they walk, things they say, and then go look at the groups in they self. Go look at the groups. Like, this did like I was watching one of O'Shea Duke Jackson videos today, and he was talking about this church in Atlanta that they got a gay pastor, and the one before that was gay, and different things of that nature. You know, when you go into that church, everybody is speaking the same language. Everybody is talking the same. They're moving the same. Like it's almost like their minds were taken over by this belief system. And then like you'll start to see this is what we do as people, and then we go out and we find different groups that we can become part of in order so, we can shed light on that belief system that we have. So once we join that organization, like that begins to be the only thing that you begin to see. Once I join that church and I start taking in everything that they're saying and their belief, I become one of them. I become a part of the whole. It's kind of weird it's not weird. I ain't gonna say that it's weird. It's just what happens. It's what people do. Like we join. It's almost like gangs, and we think gangs is something terrible. But what do you think these other huge organizations is? What do you think the Jehovah Witnesses are? What do you think the Mormons are? They're just bigger gangs than the regular ones. And then when you go inside and you see what they're doing and look at the inhabitants of the people that are spreading this message in order to clone other people with the belief system that they have, you begin to understand and you go, God damn, like this is what we doing. This is what we doing. And this is how, this shit is built, bro. And the more people we get to come in and to believe that system, the more that system grows, the stronger it becomes. Because without you believing in it and making it a thing, it wouldn't exist. The only reason a lot of these different ideas and this bullshit exists is because we believe it. And since we believe it and we make it a thing, we pass it on to the next person. We clone them. And then that person goes out and clones a couple of other people. That goes out and clones a couple of other people until it gets to be what it is today. And then everybody be running behind this one belief system or this one idea, and they become clones of that idea. If you think I'm bullshitting, like I said, go look at everybody. Like when we talk about politics, you got Republicans, you got Democrats. Which one are you? And when a Republican get to talking, they're a Republican. When a Democrat get to talking, they're a Democrat just by how they speak and their belief system, which you can see in like a Catholic. When a Catholic start talking, they are Catholic by how they speak. The Mormons that be riding around on them little bikes, they Mormon by the way they speak, the way they dress, because it doesn't just be the speaking part of it, because after a while, people got to dress the part. Bro, this shit is crazy. People got to dress the part. Let me explain it like this to make it more clear. Look at the Raiders. Look at the Lakers. Like, when people accept, okay, bam, the Lakers is my favorite team, what do? Like, they don't just speak about Lakers and Laker history and some of the best players that was on the Lakers. They go out and they start dressing with Laker hats, Laker memorabilia. So they let everybody know that they are a Laker fan. And if you talk sports, once they get to speaking, you're going to know that they're a Laker fan or what team they flow for by the way they talk and the players that they desire that they say they like. You're going to know. So I'm like going, this shit is crazy, bro. You're like, but just go see it for yourself. If you think I'm bullshitting, watch for yourself. Go out. You and look at people. If you go out and you see a gang of Crips, you gonna know they Crips. Why? Because they all gonna have on blue. You gonna know they Bloods because they all got on red. You gonna know that they Nation of Islam because they dress the part. Like, you know, you gonna know that this motherfucker work at McDonald's because they got on a McDonald's shirt at work. You feel me? You don't just play the position. You got to dress the part. Because when they say as above, so below, people don't really understand that. As the mind thinketh, the body gonna follow. That's the as above, so below. The above is right here. So whatever you're thinking, that's what's going to be shown to you. That's what you're going to put back out into the world. That's the way you're going to dress. That's the way you, like, it's weird as fuck, but pay attention. And on that note, thanks for watching. Hit that like button. It's going to be a short one, and I'll probably be back.